Hello and welcome to the Responsive Family Sleep Podcast. I'm your host, Kim Hawley, holistic sleep coach, lactation consultant, peaceful parenting educator, and mom. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by all the conflicting sleep info, frustrated with sleep information that just plain felt wrong, or searched desperately for a truly gentle and responsive sleep approach, then you are in the right place. In each episode, we'll be answering your most pressing baby and toddler sleep questions, busting those sleep myths, and helping you understand truly developmental, biologically normal baby and toddler sleep, plus encouraging you to trust your intuition along the way. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome back to the podcast. This week, we're going to be talking about a sleep strategy that I use with a lot of the families that I work with, and that is habit stacking or layering sleep associations, right? Different people call it different things. It's not a strategy, owned by any particular sleep coach. We use it widely in the sleep world. I tend to call it habit stacking, which comes from Lindsay Hookway. She's one of my sleep mentors. She's been on the podcast. She's amazing. I don't know. I just started calling it that. She's not even who I first heard it from. I knew about it before I became a holistic sleep coach. Like I said, many other responsive and gentle sleep coaches use it. But that's the term I tend to use most, so want to give her credit for that terminology of habit stacking. And so what is it? When we use it, why am I talking about it today? So I use this a lot when we're thinking about making changes or wanting more flexibility, right? When it's like, my kiddo will only be bounced to sleep or only fed to sleep, and I need to stop it, want to stop it. It doesn't feel sustainable. It's not working. Or gosh, it'd be nice to have more tools in my toolbox than just this one strategy. So habit stacking is, a concept outside of sleep as well, right? Like that if you want to start a new habit, sort of tag it on to a habit that you already do. So if you're trying to eat more protein and you always have coffee in the morning, maybe you dump a spoonful of protein powder in your coffee, right? Like just as a really, really basic one. But for sleep, what this can look like is taking the primary way we get our kiddo to sleep and adding in additional sensory soothing tools on top of that, right? So if we always feed to sleep, maybe while we're feeding to sleep, we also hum and pat their butt, right? Or rock, or have special sleepy time music, or stroke their face, right? Or whatever they seem to respond well to. And so we're doing these things together at the same time, and that is purposeful, right? So we're taking the familiarity of, let's say, feeding to sleep again in our example. They associate feeding to sleep with falling asleep, and it's comforting and it's warm, it's familiar. And we're taking these other strategies and we're doing them at the same time. So we're kind of borrowing that association and that feeling of comfort and safety and familiarity and trying to help these new associations become associated with falling asleep, right? And with that comfort and safety and relaxation of falling asleep. And so the only way to do that is to do them together, right? For a period of time. There isn't like a clear evidence-based answer here. I find it's more effective the longer you do it. So if we can habit stack well in advance of wanting to make a change, then that association is going to be stronger. Generally, ideally, at least we're doing it for a few weeks so it starts to feel normal as opposed to just something you're randomly doing. The key here is two things, right? One is these things are not going to work on their own right away. And it may take some work, right, to get them into regular rotation without the primary way of falling asleep. So it's not always as simple as build the association, then it's going to work, right? There's a lot more that can go into that. But it's about doing them together, right? Building that association and giving it time. So when we're picking strategies, It's not, oh, that didn't work on its own. It's, does this feel like a good addition? Does my kiddo respond well to me including it? Because I have definitely worked with clients and we're like, let's try scratching their back, right? They like that when they're awake. But somehow at falling asleep time, they're like swatting their parent's hand away. And the child is clearly saying, no, this is not a good addition, right? Or you might try something that's it's overstimulating or it's amping them up. So it's not a good new tool to bring in, right? We want something where they feel like, along with their normal way of falling asleep, this feels like a good addition. So that's the first thing. We need them consistently. We need to bring in things that feel like a good addition. And then I want you to do it sustainably, right? So if your kiddo is up 3 or 4 times a night, and usually, you're asleep for 3 of those wake ups, and maybe you sideline nurse in bed, please don't get up and rock your kiddo because that's your habit stack, that you're including at bedtime, right? That's not sustainable. So the more consistently you do it, right, the stronger that association is going to form. But we also don't need to be 100% consistent. So bedtime, naps when they're at home and it makes sense, right? Maybe the first wake of the night when you're more awake, or if you're very awake for a night wake, then yes, try to do them if they make sense. But if you're like, I'm just getting everyone back to sleep as fast as possible over here, then do what is easiest, right? Do what is easiest. So I see people kind of burn out when they're trying to do all night long habit stack for every wake. And it's like, no, not necessary. But I also see it not work when parents are either rushing it. They're like, I did it for 3 days and now they won't fall asleep without feeding and just with the rocking and patting. And it's like, well, that's too fast, right? Or they're just really inconsistent. They're like, yeah, we have some other tools, but we only kind of do them sometimes. So consistent but sustainable, and really picking the times when you're most awake to do them, and then making sure it feels like a good addition. Now, the other thing here is realistic expectations, right? So like I said, this isn't a magic wand that's going to magically have it easy to step back from your primary way your child falls asleep. It's just a bridge. It's just a way to help smooth you through that process, or to help other caregivers be like, okay, I can't nurse them to sleep. They don't like hiking a bottle to sleep, so I can't feed them to sleep. But we can build these shared soothing tools that we have special sleepy time music. So, whatever caregiver it is, we're always using the same, music, or we're always playing music for them to fall asleep. So it can be like a bridge that way. It can be a bridge as you help them through falling asleep without nursing or reducing the amount of nursing or bouncing or rocking or whatever it is. And so there's still a process there, but it can often give you a lot more flexibility and a lot more of an opening for change than if you haven't introduced these new tools in sort of a thoughtful way. Let's see. I think the other big struggle point when folks are habit stacking is that they are including things in the bedtime routine, but they're not actually like habit stacking them. So they're like, oh, well, we do music in our bedtime routine, but then we turn it off while they're falling asleep. And that still can be really lovely. There's nothing wrong with that. But if we want them to fall asleep with it, then we need to bring it into that falling asleep time, right? So I nurse while the music is playing, while I gently rock and rub your back, right? Just as an example. So there aren't any yes or no things to choose. Think about the different senses. Think about what your child responds well to, what is relaxing. Pick, maybe 1 or 2 extra things, and don't worry about experimenting a little bit in the beginning. Like, it's okay to see how they respond and feel it out a bit before you're like, all right, this is what we're going to be consistent on. This is what we're going to work on. So it's just an overview. I hope it gives you some good ideas and some ways to bring some new soothing tools, into your routine, or to plan well in advance of when you want to make changes, or just get something started for, a few weeks ahead of being ready to make some changes. Thank you for joining me today. I hope this episode left you feeling more informed, confident, and encouraged on your sleep journey. And just a reminder before you go that nothing in this episode is individualized to your specific sleep situation nor is it to be taken as medical advice. Take what resonates, ignore what doesn't, and check with your healthcare provider about any medical concerns. Take a moment to subscribe to this podcast so that you'll never miss an episode. And take a moment to rate, review, or share an episode you love on social media. All of that helps parents just like you find me, this podcast, and this gentle and responsive sleep information. I'll see you next time.